Hi everybody, welcome back to Ox Talks. It is Saturday, June 15th, 2024. I wanted to take some time today and share a very vulnerable, a very personal story with all of you that I've been holding back for quite a while sharing, but I think it's time to get it out here on the channel. So hopefully people can learn and not maybe make some of the same mistakes that I made many years ago, having to do with real estate. And actually my family's primary residence that yes, I'm gonna say it, we lost in foreclosure. I'm going to take probably more time than normal today to lay this out and explain what led up to it, what then transpired, and then what the aftermath was, and what the lessons and the takeaways that I gleaned from the experience. But before I jump into that, I want to say I appreciate all of you being here. I've been a little sporadic lately with doing the videos because I've been so extremely busy at the office. I sat back the other day, and I thought to myself, I need to try to find a way to, if I can, pull back some of this litigation. For me, it's always been a bread and butter part of my law practice. I'm good at it, but it's very stressful on me. It's very time consuming, and I'm thinking about ways to make some transitions. So more to come on that. But I want to also say thank you guys for tuning in. This is a topic today and a story I'm going to share with you that I hope that you will, and I would request and ask and beg that you guys share with anybody you can think of. And I know a lot of people on this channel, I know the demographics, you're my age group, 50s, 60s, 40s, but we don't have a viewership that's younger generation, really. And I mean 20s, 30s, early 40s, people that I think would most potentially benefit from what I'm going to share today. So what I'm asking all of you, and if you have any channels as well, please share them if you don't mind, or share this as well. Grandkids, maybe your children, if you're retired, please share this with them, because I believe that we are embarking on what's going to be a pretty substantial real estate collapse. And I don't think it's news to anybody. Discussed it on this channel before quite a bit. You all read the news, you see what's happening now, and I'll share some articles with you today, some data points after I tell you about my personal experience, because that's the focus of today's message. And I'm here at the house by myself, sitting in one of my favorite chairs here, and I wanted to just take this time. My family's on their way back from the coast after being down there for a couple of weeks. I went down last weekend and joined them, but I just didn't have any more time to get back down there. So I said, look, you guys stay there, have fun. I will say this, it's 112 degrees here today in the desert, brutal temperatures. And you might ask, well, why are you there? And I get it. Sometimes I ask myself that, but I will say this, it's my home. It's where I've been successful in building a business since 1995. And so, you don't just disassociate from that. You don't just pick up and bail on that. I have a lot of history here. I met my wife here. We had our two daughters here. So yes, there's downside. Yes, you have to get out of this heat, and we have to do things, leave, go to the coast during the summer. Work around the situation. But on the brighter side, the roads are pretty clear right now. People have fled the area. Which I say good riddance. There's no more concerts. There's no more Coachella fests. There's no more, Stagecoach. So, hey, the roads are open. Nobody wants to be here. It's miserable. So I look at the silver lining. It's funny now. The heat doesn't bother me. I guess older people, and no slight on older people, older folks, but they love the heat. They feel better in the heat. Their joints don't hurt as much in the heat. And you hear that a lot. I don't have those issues per se, but I found myself last weekend and then the week before at Newport Coast kind of being chilly. Now I know, when you're living in this climate, your blood gets thinner. I understand that, but that raw chilliness is a whole different deal. I found myself last week walking out of my office and just walking around, walked to lunch a couple days in the heat, just to kind of feel that. So it's a different situation, different environment, but I wanted to just take a longer video today and discuss a very important topic. I think I'm gonna shift gears a bit on this channel and start spending a bit more time on real estate. And that's why I wanted to share a very personal, heartfelt story with all of you today about an experience that we went through. I previewed it a few minutes ago with you about what happened to us many, many years ago. So let's delve right into that. Please share this with everybody. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. I'm going to do my best to dedicate more time to this channel. I have a lot of experience, a lot of life experience to offer people, probably younger people that haven't yet really experienced hardship. And this story I'm about to share with all of you, for me, was, and to this day, is probably my greatest hardship ever, and how it had aftermath on me, but also how it impacted me and made me smarter. And they say, pain teaches lessons, and in this case, it did for sure. So real estate, let's go back to that. We have a lot of articles, you're being bombarded with all the every day now about houses staying on the market longer. Rates we know are elevated. They're going to stay elevated for a while, and there's the lock-in effect with people that really can't sell their house. We have equity coming down in houses in many places across this country, and I think it's going to continue to snowball and to get worse. And as you all know, if you're a regular watcher of the channel, I do primarily a lot of real estate transactional and litigation work in my law practice. Been doing that since 1995. And I've seen the cycles, and I went through the cycle, and whatever you want to call it. For me, it was 08, 9, and 10 when we had issues come up, but it was a great financial crisis. But it was primarily real estate. Let's say it was kicked off by the mortgage crisis. And then, of course, there were some other dominoes that fell. The markets fell eventually and all that. Metals sold off. People lost a lot of value, not only in real estate, but in stocks and other assets. So I went through it, got my butt kicked, and you talk about, I printed out a list here about, I talk about, being humbled. And, I'm 54 years old now, and I try every day to impart the concept of being humble. And that's not a trait that many litigators have, but, it's interesting. I truly believe that now, that most people just don't have that part of their character. They're not, maybe they haven't gone through hardship, maybe they have and they've been hardened by it, so they feel like they're wiser than others now. I don't know. And in my profession, I see, as you can imagine, in the legal field, a tremendous amount of ego, more so out of the younger attorneys that are just up and coming and haven't yet had to go through the school of hard knocks yet and get their handed to them by a judge or by opposing counsel or a jury or what have you. But just in general, I see a lack of humbleness among people in society. And I think there's going to be a big wake-up call, guys, coming fairly soon across probably all sectors of this economy, all races, all ages, and I hope you pay attention to what's going on. So let's talk about my experience. I'm already 9 minutes in. This is going to be a longer video, but I'm going to take my time because I've been procrastinating on this video, but it's something that I think you can all learn from. 2005, December of 05, late 2005. My wife and I had just had our first daughter. I have two daughters. They're now 17, 19. But Our first daughter was born in mid 2005, and I was down in Orange County, Anaheim, for some depositions for a few days, and my wife and daughter came down to join me, I think, for a couple of days, and then we're going to hang out down there and then come back to the desert. So my wife had her car, and we were staying at a Marriott or some hotel. The car was valet parked, hers was. The next day I came out, it was a Thursday night they came down. The next day I came out to get my car. I know I didn't see my wife's car anywhere. And so I called her and said, look, I don't see your car. I know it was parked last night. Just, check in on it. Bottom line, the car had been stolen. It had been broken into and stolen. And my wife had left in the vehicle. There was a whole bunch of shopping bags that she had from the day before she left in there. But she also left, and of course, the registration in the glove box, the insurance card, which had our home address. Be careful of that, by the way. And she left her key ring, not the car key, but she had some extra keys, including our personal residence key in the vehicle. So it was stolen. And the next day I thought to myself, this is Anaheim. We were a couple hours away at least from our house in the desert. But I thought to myself, who knows? I'm going to change the locks at the house, change all the locks. So I went through, changed all the locks on the doors. We go about a week later, and I'm out on a business meeting with some clients for dinner. And I get this panic call from my wife, and at the time, our daughter was 6 months old, something like that, maybe 7 months old. Panic call from my wife saying, that she had come around into one of the rooms. We had French doors in the house, and she had come around the corner because she heard some noise, and there's someone there, in a sweatshirt with a hoodie on, and they actually have a ring of keys, and they're trying keys in the door. So whoever had stolen the car, or their friends or whatever, had actually had the home address. They went to our residence one night, and they were trying keys, or this person trying keys in the door. Well, I'd had the locks changed, so thank God they didn't have an easy entry. My wife was holding at the time our daughter. She screamed. Thank goodness this person ran off. It could have been the other way around. Had they gotten into the house, had they had an easy entry with a key, had they broken the door down, whatever, you just don't know. But thank God that it ended okay. This person was gone. So had the police come, took a report, all that stuff. About a week or so later, another person jumped the wall in the house. They're trying to get in one of the doors. So the bottom line is we had 2 break-in attempts at our residence. This is a house that it was in 2001. I had built by a client of mine when I was like 30 years old, something like that, 31 years old. And it was then I met my house. I met my wife, and we lived there together. So it was special, and it was just the right size. It was manageable. I don't know what the square footage was, maybe 2,300 square feet, something like that. It was, I think, 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. It was nice. I had customized it with some stuff because my client was a developer at the time. But this was traumatic for us. It was a traumatic experience. So now we're in late 05, early 2006. And I had a friend of mine who was a realtor in the area, was doing a lot of deals, closing a lot of transactions. Okay, now we're late 05, early 06. If you know what was happening back then, I'm sure if you they're my age. If not, if you're younger, you didn't. But there was a blow off top in real estate. Now the reality is, I didn't know that. Yes, I was a real estate business lawyer, but I wasn't in the day-to-day throes of the markets, or I was so busy I wasn't paying attention. And so what happened was, a realtor friend of mine brought me. I said, "Look, we've soured now on this house. We have a bad taste in our mouth. It's a bad experience or experiences, and we just maybe it's time to move on, sell the house, get something else." At the time, I think I'm about 34 years old, something like that. It's 2006, so 16, 26. I'm like, yeah, so I'm about that age. And a realtor friend of mine comes to us and says, look, I found this great house for you. It's huge, but look at market's going up. You want to capitalize on this. And a friend of mine, I had trusted him. We'd done a couple deals together before. So we went through this house, and it was this huge place, and 5,700 or 5,800 square feet, 2 levels, on a golf course, tremendous upgrades. And of course, right away, the ego side of me was like, oh, we got to have this place. We're going to make this happen. And the mentality at the time with the realtors and with the mortgage brokers and everybody in that environment was that, look, the party's never going to end. Well, good. If you were actually studying the markets of that time, which I was not, the party had already ended, right? The people that were buying in the market in 2006, late 05 into 06 were already done for. They were dead meat. Well, I didn't understand that. I didn't know that. Now talk about realtors. I'm not hating on realtors. The point is this. My realtor at that point in time did not understand that. Had he understood that, I want to believe as a many year friendship that he would have called that to my attention. Now look, everyone wants to make money. Realtors want to close deals. It's part of the reality. But I had never one time heard from my realtor that maybe this isn't the right time to go into that big of a purchase. It was $1.1 million at that time, and we closed that transaction. And I want to say we took it as a first with I think a 5 or 7 year ARM, adjustable rate mortgage, and then we piled on a small second after that to get this deal done. Let's talk about the mortgage lender, the mortgage broker I work with. Again, over the years, he's become a friend of mine. We've done a couple deals together. At no point in time during that transaction did he say to me, look, this may not be the right time to be picking up something like this, okay? It may not be a prudent time because things are collapsing. So either he and my realtor had no clue what was going on, and I believe that's probably the case, or they were just trying to close the deal, make the points, make the commissions. So I believe to this day, they just were ignorant as to what was happening with the market cycle and the fact that things had already started to turn down substantially. It wasn't the top quite yet, but I'll explain to you, the top came within a few months after I closed that escrow. I closed that escrow in March of 2006, believe it or not. Yeah, it makes me cringe. And I thought this is going to be the greatest thing ever. This thing's going to be worth $2 million fast, and we'll refinance the ARM. We'll get into a traditional 30-year. Mind you, at the time, my law practice was having some of the best years that it ever had. I had staff. I was extremely busy. The numbers I was putting up were substantial. And so that contributed to, I think, my ego decision, but I also had my realtor saying, look, you've got to get this deal. These are in demand. You'll never find this kind of transaction or this kind of a deal again, pumping it up. Look, it's happening again right now, guys. A lot of the realtors have never gone through a crisis. They didn't experience the great financial crisis. They didn't go through that. They were in high school or college or whatever. So I hope that you will take that to heart and do not assume that your professionals that are helping you out understand the reality of the marketplace. I say this now because I believe we are embarking on the same kind of a cycle, right? We're seeing this downturn. We have crested the peak of the mountain. Now, at that point in March of 06, some could argue we hadn't yet gotten to the top. And I'll tell you why. Within about 3 months of us closing our escrow on that house, and let me tell you what the payments were in a second, but we had it appraised and it was on paper up about $250,000. So I don't, obviously appraisals are grain of salt, but we were, if not at the top when we closed the escrow, we were really, really close to it. And then the bottom fell out. So as I recall, the payment, the interest rate on my first, I think 6%, something like that. Interest rate on the second was 8%, 8.5%. I believe the payment on the first was $5,100, almost $5,200. The payment on the second was another $1,800, $2,000. Not even counting property taxes on a 1% in California on $1.1 million. You do the math. Our payments were, I don't know, almost $8,000 a month for this house. The mentality, it didn't set home with me. It was that it was going to keep going. This thing was going to continue going parabolic in terms of the value of the real estate, and that my practice would continue to grow. And so it didn't matter, right? Money was free flowing. A couple of sports cars in the garage, nanny in the house. Golf club membership. I had a golf cart garage in this house on the bottom floor. I'd walk down and I would pull my golf cart out of my backyard onto, I think at that point it was the third or fourth fairway of this private golf course. So looking back, what a joke, right? But it was, a lot of it was ego driven. A lot of it was like, hey, the party's never going to end. Let's jump on this gravy train. So, the party ended. And so we now continue. We're servicing the debt. We're, $1.1 million in loans, right? I think we did 100% financing or something close to it. We had funds, but I thought, well, we'll just take this financing. It's free money. And all the wrong decisions were made. No traditional mortgage, piled the second on there to close the deal. So yes, you look at me and you say, well, why are we watching this guy, right? He professes to be an expert and a lawyer, but I want to share, this is the humbling part. You can do what you do in life for a career. And yes, I was involved in real estate law and my practice, but it was different, okay? And you get focused on something and you're not paying attention to people around you. And I don't blame anybody else for that decision. We made the decision to buy that house and to close that deal, and we were there for almost 4 years. Okay, so wonderful place, no bad memories. And then while in that house, we had our second daughter, right? So a lot of wonderful things happened there. But at the end of the day, the values started to plummet. And that house that we owed nearly $1,100,000 on started to drop in value. And now when you have the real estate drop in value, guess what? Your options are gone. You don't have the ability to refinance those loans. If the value of that property, which it did, drops below, and this goes for any property, folks, drops below the amount of your loan, you have zero equity. And some respects, a lot of times you have negative equity. All right, you can't refinance. Okay, if there's not an appropriate loan to value ratio there, banks won't refinance your loan. Okay, so you're basically stuck. The lock-in effect now is a little different situation. I'm talking about when you have negative equity. Okay, so I will tell you this: we started to realize what was going on. We saw the values coming down, and let's now skip forward a few years. My law practice started to slow down a bit. There wasn't as much coming in the door, and we started to struggle a bit with the payments. The payments were substantial. And I believe the payment on the second was about to adjust even higher. So I was struggling. Those are huge payments. Imagine the income I was bringing in on a monthly basis just to cover. That was just the house payment, and the insurance was, I think, $1,000 a month. And then, not the insurance, the taxes, plus the insurance. That's just that portion. Then you have regular living expenses. You have all the other stuff, medical insurance and the costs for the family and food and utilities. Anyway, a lot going out, high stress. ridiculous, right? Stupid. Everything I don't do now, I was doing then. So we eventually came to a point where the house was appraised and it was, I don't know, a couple $100,000 at least underwater. And my wife and I made a decision, and I know a lot of people, I'm gonna get a lot of criticism on this, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm not worried about criticism or someone, drawing or saying you made the wrong call. We made the best call that we thought we had to make at the time, for the family. And that was to basically leave the house. We tried with the banks. Again, we're early on now in the real estate crash, if you will. Banks are not working. I say early on. Now we're in 2000, I think 9. We get some struggles happening in 2010. Into 2010, banks were not working with people. The whole mortgage crisis, the cascading effect of all the foreclosures, and the bundled mortgages, all that stuff. That's what we had. But there was very little litigation at the time on it. The rules had not been established yet. There was no precedent. Our banks, we tried to short sale the property. That means when you approach your lender with a buyer that's willing to offer and purchase the property for less than is owed on the loan, and the lender is to accept a lesser amount and basically just retire the loan. And lenders would not, we had realtors listing the property, lenders would not work with us on short sale opportunities. I think we brought them 3 or 4, I thought at that time were very healthy offers to sell, and we were rejected. So at the end of the day, we decided to let the house go back to the bank. And there was news coming out at the time where people were, staying in their houses for 2 or 3 years for free, and then stripping the appliances out and doing all these nasty things, destroying the property. My wife and I decided, we're just not going to play that game. We had 2 young kids. We needed stability. So we basically relinquished the property. And again, I know people are going to disagree with that and say, well, that was chicken and whatever. But my thought at the time was, and I will tell you that when the house finally went to sale, it went to sale for $600, I think, and like $40,000. Mind you, the debt was $1,000,001 something. So it had dropped basically 50%. So I don't know, give me your comments below. If you don't own your house outright and you have a mortgage, you probably don't have 50% equity in the property. Many people do. We certainly do now, and I'll share the current situation. But we were so far underwater that, from my perspective, it made no sense to keep trying to service that debt load, knowing that there was that much negative equity in the property. And yeah, it did, in hindsight, looking back now at the values, it took years and years for that to recover. So, brutal experience. We basically became renters for many years. Our credit got destroyed. And I always had excellent credit. My wife did too. I believe it's been many years now. And mind you, I was like 36 years old at the time, 37 years old, thinking I was a big flying and look what happened, right? So I definitely got a lot of pegs chopped out, legs chopped out, and what a humbling experience. My credit score dropped, as I recall, into the mid 500s, okay? So I had zero capacity to do anything for many, many years. A foreclosure on your credit report is the same, guys, as a bankruptcy. Repossessions of vehicles, foreclosures of real property, and bankruptcy are all on the same level. It's a 7-year recovery time, basically, okay? Before lenders, creditors will start really looking at you seriously, extending you credit. So we sucked it up. We went through that nightmare for all those years thereafter. And I made the decision with the young kids at the time to simply leave the property, turn over the possession. Once we knew the banks weren't going to, the banks, it was two different lenders on the first and second, were not going to work with us. I basically made the decision to that I just didn't want to put my family through an eviction process and all the stuff that came along with that. And so that was our decision that we made. Okay, so many years later, I reversed the tables. I learned a lot from the process, and getting put in that vulnerable position. And that is the biggest thing. You feel like, as a provider, you feel like a failure, right? That you have let your family down. I believed that. To this day, I still believe in hindsight. I didn't see that coming. I wasn't prepared for it, and that's on me. I don't blame the realtor. I don't blame the mortgage broker. I don't blame anybody who was advising me at the time. End of the day, I didn't do my homework, and I didn't know what was going on. I had my head in the sand. I was too busy working in the practice. I had the young child at the time, young daughter, wasn't paying attention. And I made a bad decision on buying something that with that kind of a price tag in that environment, right? With that kind of debt. So I hope that those of you that are older and didn't go through that can share this with some of the younger people in your lives, whether it's your children, your grandchildren, and let them know that, we're in a very similar situation now, and this is going to be worse. It's going to be worse than 08, 09, 10 with regard to real estate, I believe. And so that's why I thought it was important to share that story with you today. I will tell you that years later, we stepped into a property I'm sitting in right now, and we actually bought this property from a bank that had foreclosed it on a doctor. And same thing, this guy had over leveraged. He had refied it several times. He got it over his head, and still a very successful doctor in this community. I'm not going to name any names, but he lost the property. And so, just keep in mind, it doesn't matter what you see. You think someone's the ultimate authority. You have doctors and lawyers, professionals out here. Look, guys, life has its ups and downs. So we all have experiences that teach us lessons, right? So what did that do for me? The aftermath was we eventually, purchased property at the right price. And now we've of course seen a tremendous upswing in the value, but also what else did I do? I became very jaded, as you can imagine, about finances and about debt. And I preach on this channel all the time about not having credit card debt or minimizing that and paying it off, not buying things you can't afford, not trying to do things to, impress your friends. I've gone through that. I've been there, right? The ego will, what I saw, someone the other day at the gym said, ego is not your amigo, meaning ego is not your friend, meaning it will burn you. And I can't say all that was ego. We had the issue with the attempted break-ins. I thought it was a good opportunity. It was just my miscalculation. We got overextended, and that's what happens. So yes, you recover, you get through it. But if you don't have to go through that, if you can learn from people like me or others that have gone through the pain of making those poor decisions, do not do that. So pay attention to what's going on right now. Don't be so eager to rush into catch a falling knife, guys, all right, relative to real estate. If you're younger, please just be very, very careful. If you find something that works for you and it works for your budget and you're not overextending, fine. But do not bank on the fact that the Fed's going to lower rates. You're going to be able to come in there, refinance in 6 months or a year. Do not bank on that. Do not bank on the fact that the values are going to turn around and go up, and therefore you're going to have equity in the properties. The opposite may very well happen. Look at my property. My purchase price was $1,100,000. It went back to the bank for $650,000. Okay, so that is okay. Let me rephrase that. That's not accurate. The bank credit bid at the sale what they were owed, but then what happened was the bank subsequently sold the property within a few months to a buyer for $650,000. So when there's a foreclosure, if no one shows up at the auction, the bank will what's called full credit bid what they're owed on the note. I think they were owed $1 million, whatever it was, 900,000 or something, I think, on the first. And the second got wiped out. But the first, credit bid in what they were owed, they ended up selling it a few months later to a private, an arm's length buyer for $650,000. That was how much of a drop that property took. So if you think it can't happen, folks, I'm here to tell you it can, and it did happen to us. And it took me many, many years to recover. What did I do during that time? Guess what? I did not carry revolving debt. I did not get myself into credit card issues, debt. I started stacking gold and silver and preparing and fortifying hard assets. I started putting cash aside. I started minimalizing expenditures on unnecessary items. Again, pain teaches, right? So you have to, we all learn from mistakes, and those that have not made mistakes or been subject to being humbled, that are out there trying to tell you what to do, tell you to go out there and spend and everything's gonna be fine, or to buy real estate. A lot of people don't know what the hell they're talking about. They haven't ever gone through a real crisis. They haven't been taught any real life experiences. And so I just urge all of you, especially the younger people, and that's why I'd ask my viewers that are maybe my age or older to please share this with people that are younger, that might be on the fence right now and feeling pressured by whoever it is. Friends, family, trying to keep up with the Joneses, realtors, mortgage people, financial advisors, pressuring them that now is the time to get into the market. Again, I'm not a real estate expert. I'm not a real estate agent or a broker. I am a real estate attorney. It's a little different animal, but the point is that we are embarking on this cycle. Let me share a couple, just one quick story or two with you. It's a long video. Look, it's hard for me to even share that story. It still gives me chills to this day, makes me very emotional to even come out and share it. It's very, very, let's say, vulnerable is the word, because it's not a success story, okay? It's a story of failure, right? So I failed. I failed myself, I failed my family, I failed my friends, and you learn from that, and you can rationalize it any way you want. Well, this is what led to, this is why we justified it. Okay, I gave you the backstory. You know what we were motivated and why, but did we need to go into a $1.1 million house? I think we sold our prior house for $400,000. Did we need to go into step up that much? Heck no, okay? At that age, mid-30s, trying to be, the big, the big man on campus, whatever it was, it ended badly, right? So everyone's healthy, family made it through. That's the most important thing. But it was devastating, and it definitely knocked me down several rungs. I never forgot that situation, and like I said, it set me on a whole different course relative to finances and to what's important and decision making. So I look back, I don't regret it because I learned from it. And I see so many people around me that are still getting into debt, still racking up credit cards, still overextending, on taking risk on real estate at this point in time. That is horrible timing, and timing is a lot of this. So those of you that feel pressured, again, talk to your own advisors, your own lawyers, your own accountants, your own whatever, pastors, but now's probably not the time to rush into a situation. Sit back and watch this thing unfold. There will be deals to be had. Look, if you were the couple or the people that bought my foreclosed house for $650,000 from the bank after I lost it, guess what? You had a huge run up on the value of that property in the ensuing years, right? You bought right. And so anyway, I hope that this story is impactful, and this channel is about me just coming out and being myself and not sugarcoating stuff. Again, I've been holding that story back because I wanted to share it. My thought was I wanted to share it when the channel grew to a greater extent. It is a growing channel, and I appreciate all of you, but I thought, you know what, I'm gonna share it now. Hopefully you guys will share it and it'll get out there, and I'll discuss it again. I'll come back to it for new subscribers, new viewers down the road. I think it's important. So the one story I want to share with you is again real estate focused, and to drive this point home about what is happening right now with the real estate market. This is out of Newsweek from June 13th, a couple days ago. So it's not a real new article or new story. We all know this stuff's happening, but I want to drive the point home with this. It says, as mortgage rates hover around the 7% mark and home prices remain stubbornly high, Americans are struggling to offload their properties, with more than 3 in 5 home listings now considered stale, meaning they're sitting on the market. It says that the share of stale inventory, the number of homes sitting on the U.S. market for at least 1 month, has been increasing year over year since March. According to the real estate platform, in May, 61.9% of homes on the market have been listed for at least 30 days without going under contract, up from 60% in May of 2023 and about 50% in May of 2022. 2 in 5, or 40.1% of homes that were on the market in May had been listed for at least 2 months, it says, without going under contract. That was unchanged from May of 2023 and up from 27.8% in May of 2022. The rise in the number of homes sitting idle on the market is likely linked to the growth in inventory across the country, especially in states like Texas and Florida, at a time when demand remains discouraged by high mortgage rates and high home prices. Look, a lot of people have sat back. They didn't sell their homes earlier. They're now sitting in a situation where they're trying to sell. There's a bit of a rush for the exit. I don't think you've seen anything yet. This is just the initial tip of the iceberg, guys, with regard to the rush to the exits. But people are not able to sell their homes, right? So whatever equity the substantial upswing in equity they've experienced through the pandemic years, they failed to capitalize on that and sell at the right time. Now they're rushing for the exits, trying to sell, and guess what? There are no buyers because the rates are too high. People's credit scores aren't in order. Their jobs aren't secure. There's a whole host of economic factors now impacting the housing market. Okay, so you have this situation where the inventory is going to keep rising. So we talk about opportunities. If you're in the right situation, if your credit score is strong, by the way, I told you credit score dropped to the mid 5s. I just checked the other day, I'm at 825. I don't know what the top credit score is, but getting pretty darn close. So look at, work on the credit, keep that score high, pay the bills on time, make the right choices so when the opportunities do come around, and they're gonna be here, folks, it's not yet, but when they arrive, you'll be able to seize these opportunities, right? And get yourself into a prime situation, right? What's important is, when you buy the property, not as much when you sell the property, okay? It says the latest decision on Wednesday by the Federal Reserve left interest rates unchanged, signaling that it will only implement one cut at the end of the year. Bad news for aspiring home buyers waiting for lower mortgage rates, it says, and bad news for homeowners hoping to move out of their starter homes also. So Look, inventory is rising. I'm not going to go into the other stories today. I'm at 45 minutes on this video. I knew it was going to be long. It's something I just thought it was important to take the time to share with all of you. And this channel means a lot to me. Your comments mean a lot to me. So I hope you stuck around for most of it, because it's a lesson that I think it's important to share, a lesson I learned, important to share with all of you. Thank you very much for being here. Please like, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. Again, to the fathers out there, happy Father's Day tomorrow. I'm a father. You know, if you are a father, I hope and I wish for you that you are active in your children's lives. It's so important. We have a lot of fathers in this country that are not, right? They're absentee. I will say this, when my girls were, in their earlier years, I was gone a lot, working, not traveling, but just working. And I look back and I regret a lot of that. The time went very fast. I was telling my wife the other day that I still wake up in the middle of the night and I feel that regret that I wasn't around I was always around for key things and birthdays and all that kind of stuff, but just in terms of the day-to-day, when I would come home and they wanted to play a board game or they wanted to watch a show together, and I was exhausted or I had a file to look at. And now, it's different. They have other interests and they're busy. So, for those fathers that have young children, take the time, guys, because it goes very, very fast. And don't underestimate the role, okay, that you play in your child's life as a father. So again, blessings to all the fathers. Wish all of you the best. Have a great Father's Day. Probably won't get a video up tomorrow. This thing is running at 46 minutes, so I'll likely chime in early next week with all of you. Until then, have a great rest of your weekend. Please watch the diet. Don't get lazy on that. Get that fitness, get the walking in. Do some strength training over the weekend. It's not a time to be lazy. It's time to better ourselves when we're not having to be as stressed out about the 9 to 5 job. So again, appreciate all of you. Have a great day. Bye.